Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Ailey All Access event. My name is Hope Boykin, and this week we are celebrating our artistic director, Mr. Robert Battle. And today we also get to speak to the composer, Mr. John Mackey. Hello, Mr. Battle. Hello, John. How you
Hi.
doing?
Hello, great.
My first question is, where did you two meet? Like, how did it get started? When was the first boom, explosion? I'm going to make this work for Robert Battle, or Robert saying, I want to use that guy to make some work for me. How did it get started?
I mean, was the first thing you doing, I think Strange Humors was first, wasn't it? And then Damn? Was that the order?
I think so, yes.
So Strange Humors, I didn't write for Robert. I wrote it for a class at Juilliard and then gave the recording to Robert through, I think, Jason McDowell, who was dancing with Robert at Parsons, and I had worked with Jason. So Jason passed recording on to Robert of Strange Humors, and Robert choreographed that. And then I wrote a new piece for him called Damn, that's for clarinet and percussion quartet. And that was the first collaborative piece we did together. And then I don't know, how many have there been? A dozen or something? There have been so many pieces.
So, I want to take you back to about 16 years ago, when I was in the studio and we hear this Robert Battle is going to come in and create a work. And it turns out that, my name is on this list of 4 people. And literally the second hour of his very first day, we start learning. And then a piece of paper comes out with 7s and 4s and some occasional 5s and 6s. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? It's either 3/4 or 6/8 or 4/4. Like I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. But the more I learned the music, the counts really didn't matter. It just sung. And then the more I learned the movement fit with the music. So even as we restaged Juba on this last generation of dancers, they would say, well, what's the count? Well, I'd say, I don't know. It goes wham, bum, bum, wham, bum, 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 And so I knew. So 2 questions. Robert, when you start, are you looking for that impetus with music, or can you start without it and just have an idea, and then do you pass that on?
I don't know anybody's music that motivates me more than John Mackey's music, because as a musician, I've always had a respect for music and sort of reading it and trying to understand it in a way that's not just kind of, I like it, but it has to be the music. I've done it where I start with just movement, but ideally, I want to express the music. When I look at the score, it's like reading someone's, autobiography or something about what they feel, and I want to be one of the notes in the choreography on the page, not just a sort of stand on top of the music and just do my thing and let it support me. But the real collaboration is, I so much can understand what he's doing and where he's going and what he wants you to focus on or not, or all of that stuff. It just feels like it kind of makes the dance write itself when I'm listening to the music, especially of John's music. And I love the mixed meter because it challenges me. I know it really challenges the dancers. Everywhere I go, people are like, what? But I think it's great because, so much of our training as dancers is that 6/8, or sometimes you get a 7, but not in the same, phrase. And so it's great because it challenges us and pushes and pulls the same way that he does with the music, it does for me. And then I can keep the audience right on the edge, because it's not predictable. So it's fascinating endlessly. But John, I'll let you take it.
Well, no, I would say that just regarding the rhythmic stuff, I remember being at one of the first, maybe it wasn't the first rehearsal, but it was an early rehearsal of Juba, and really being struck by seeing the dancers' mouths moving, the counts. You could see them going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 1. It was and I thought, oh God, that looks hard. Not the movement. The movement's clearly hard, but then I became super aware. What's amazing about Robert is I don't know if you guys know that outside of choreography and the dance companies, there's a thing that's referred to as like dancer counts, which are like super simplified versions of what the music is actually doing. You know, like I had never seen before the choreography set to the music where the choreographer is holding the score and the counts that he's giving to the dancers match the score. So like if the measure's in 5/8, y'all are counting in 5/8. Like, you know, if then it goes like 7/16 or something, you're doing a crazy fast 7. Like he's actually having it match that way, which makes it so satisfying for me to watch it, because then if I do these crazy meters, which he explicitly asks for, like the first piece that we did together, Dam has mixed meters all over the place because he explicitly wanted that. And I thought, all right, we'll see what happens. And it exactly goes with it. So it becomes a true visualization of the music. So like I can write it, but it becomes a completely different thing to me as like having written the music. Now I really see the music happen. Like his choreography is so musical. And that's astonishing. And it is super collaborative. He mentioned how collaborative it can be. It was always collaborative when we've done stuff with instrumental, like the instrumentation is Robert's super particular about that actually. Like really it's just always put in percussion. That's kind of one that he insists on. So like when I wrote Juba, I wanted it to just be for electric string quartet. And he was like, no, it needs percussion. And so now it's for string quartet and percussion. And he was right. But I was trying to just for me as a composer, have a standalone string quartet piece. And he was like, yeah, not this one. This one needs percussion. So it has percussion. When we wrote Dam, it features clarinet because his best friend was a clarinet player. Like, you know, things that were particular scoring wise that came from that were really interesting choices that I wouldn't have come up with on my own. Once I started writing, there wouldn't be a ton of stuff where he would ask me to change it. But there were occasions along the way where he would want something longer or shorter or something. But generally, he would tell me what like the style was that he wanted and whether he wanted, you know, slow or fast or mixed meter or what the general idea was. Although he would never tell me what the dance was about. Maybe because I'm curious about that. Did you know what the ballets were about before you got the music? And then you got music and just made it fit? Or did you get music having no idea until you pushed play what the ballet was about?
That one. No, I had no idea. Juba, I had no idea. Mass, vague. I always want, and kind of, I don't say it because I find that I don't generally say what it's about, even if I think I know a little like bit, because I generally don't want, if I can, the composer to try to interpret this kind of thing that I pressed on it, you know, because I'm not sure. So if you have this open feel, then I want to be taken by what you give me so that I can solve the problem. And I know it's not a problem, but it is. It's that thing of like, oh, aha. And then it slowly starts to come to some kind of subject matter. But sometimes I don't know the subject matter until I'm like halfway into choreographing it. And then you have to sound intelligent and like you meant to do it. So then you start to say, yes, I was somewhere on the beach. And I remember, you know, I just gave away too much, but yeah.
Well, but I think it's actually a perfect thing because it shows the genius of both of you, and not like, this is not like, you know, flattery, but two things that strike me is, yes, I also see the movement. You can see the music through the movement. And in every work of yours that I've been able to be a part of, we feel like we are notes on the page. And that makes it easy. So then we can take those notes and make those notes into characters, and then make those characters into relatable people. And that's what audiences really don't even understand that they're getting.
Yeah, I write a ton of, like in all of my music, what are called ostinatos, which is like a repeated bass line or whatever, which I think largely comes from having grown up on like the Michael Jackson Thriller album, which, you know, I think that's something Robert and I have in common actually. But it's one thing that's great about those songs, especially like, you know, the Rod Temperton songs. And I mean, like that whole album is loaded with bass line riffs, like just the one measure that repeats over and over and over, you know, like dun 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 dun, you know, that's what was that Billie Jean?
Billie Jean, yeah.
Dun 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 dun, like, you know, like the bass line just repeats over and over and over again. So I think that's something that I started writing music when I was 11, around when that album came out. And so I think hearing that really satisfying repeat of, you know, a simple bass line or whatever, and then layering stuff on top of it is something that I found satisfying to do and not that difficult to do. You know, you got a good thing and then you just layer something kind of cool on top of it, but don't do it right away. Like let it, you know, let's hear the bass line for a little bit and then we'll add a layer. And just as you're like, I think I'm getting bored, but before you can finish the word bored in your head, I added something else. So like the trick is to figure out the pacing in a way with that stuff that you're about to go crazy, but I give you that release that Rob was just talking about, right when you really desperately need it the most, like figuring out when the audience is going to be like at the edge of like, please open the gates a little bit or whatever. And that's, you know, that's the trick of making that's the minimalism in particular work. But yeah, I still write almost everything in layers, even if it's not a minimalist piece. Also because I can't play piano, I can't play any instruments. I do everything with music software. So I've got to enter one line at a time. So I'm writing one line and then I'm going back and writing another line on top of that and things. So everything is done with layers still.
What do you mean you can't play instruments?
Yeah, so yeah, I never studied an instrument. And there, you know, there's a whole long story about why that is. But yeah, I was never in band. I did sing in a boy choir for like 6 months and then my voice changed. So, but that was the only time that I did any kind of, and that's not, you know, not an instrument. Singing is not the same as like, I wish I could play piano. Like Robert is a much, much better pianist than I am. And I'm not being modest. I'm not a particularly modest person anyway, but I'm not being modest. So like, I really can't play piano. So everything is done very, very slowly, one note at a time into music software that then plays it back at tempo form.
So is there anything that you've ever wanted to ask Robert, you know, whether it's Mass or Juba or Strange Humors, and you're watching, you're like, what on earth were you thinking? Or is there something that you saw that you would say, why did you do it like that? Or you know, what made you create that thing?
Well, I don't know that. I think there's just this sense, I don't want to like I would say this if he wasn't on this call, like there's just for me this sense of like awe and wonder when I see the ballet all the way through for the first time, or even when I see a big chunk. It's just like, it does this crazy thing to my brain because it is in fact like, you know, a visualization of something that to me was only sound. And so that transition makes everything enhanced. It's like, you know, being on, I don't know, way too much coffee, we'll say, or something. Like there's something that happens, this stuff fires in my brain when I actually see it like that. And it's so good. And it's not to say that it, like that's not universal. I've worked with a lot of choreographers. It's not across the board like that. Like Robert and I, something about the language of what we're putting together just works, I think, when both of us see it. And maybe because we both are maybe a little bit ADD or whatever, but they're like definitely something that like, it's just like that level of stimulation is super powerful to me to experience. And I don't think about like how, I just let it wash over me and be like, if there's ever been a question, it's like, how did I get so lucky to have someone like this set my music? Like that's, I think, the thing I've questioned before. And also, how do we make it happen again? That's about all.
That's the best.
I was coming to that. I was gonna come to that. I mean, not that it's my idea or anything like that, Mr. Battle, but you know, how cool would that be?
That would be great.
You know, like a I don't want to get in trouble later, but you know, hey, it's time,
no,
right?
it's true. Like same thing, and I would be saying this, and I'd say it all the time. Like I really get pleasure out of listening to his music. You know, it's like I get chills. And still to this day, when those 7 and 9s happen, I'm like, damn, that's good. I mean, the choreography too, but it's like, how could you not make something good with that? I mean, like, come on. And so I can, usually by the time he sees the dance, like I kind of know the music better than he does because I listen obsessively. And it's not just because I have to, it's just because I want to just feel it. And so that by the time I'm making the thing, it's already written in my head somewhere. I just have to access it because the music dances anyway. And so I just have to know it so well that when I'm choreographing, I could turn it off and still you would see it before you even hear it. Anyway.
And And it resonates. It resonates in us as dancers. The music resonates, the movement resonates, and I, saying that I know what count and what sounds like what from 16 years ago is because it was already in there. It was already in our system. And as a performer who's gotten to work with both of you, it's amazing. And I'm not just saying that because we're on this call, and it's really, really been a pleasure. And I thank you both very, very much for this time.